Welcome to Beyond Pandemic Leadership Webinar. I am your host, Pastor Jonathan Taniegra. This leadership webinar is facilitated by the Leadership Development Resources. LDR is an alliance of excellent and committed leaders in coaching and training ministry and business leaders around the world. It is our pleasure and intention to usher you into the new normal and face it with great confidence, even in the midst of our most challenging moment. Your attendance to today's Beyond Pandemic Leadership Seminar speaks highly of your desire to find opportunities out of your adversity. On this leadership webinar, once again, we have our Southeast Asia team and special guest, Voltaire Pablo. Sunday Taniegra presents number 4 in the series, Making Adversity Pay. His topic is Embracing the Opportunity to Stand for Our Integrity. Sunday is an industrial behavioralist by profession and is being used by God widely in leadership training and seminars, life coaching, and counseling and mentoring relationships with students, marketplace, and church leaders. Miguel P. Pabelonia Jr. will present the challenge, Be Inspired. Miguel has rapidly become known as a respected and influential leader, leadership coach, and trainer. Miguel has earned the distinction of being recognized as an independent certified speaker, coach, and trainer with the John Maxwell team. Terry King will present the first 3 keys to living intentionally, continuing the series Leading or Reacting. Terry is the Executive Director of Leadership Development Resources. Terry loves to train leaders. Terry's influence spans the globe with 45 years of cross-cultural leadership coaching and training rooted in a spiritual dimension. We are offering you a special treat today as Terry interviews Voltaire Pablo. Voltaire Pablo III is currently the Ministry Center Director of the Leadership Associates Philippines. He took this position in 2017 after his retirement from government after 32 years of service. Mr. Pablo was Vice President for Human Resource Management Group of the Land Bank of the Philippines, or LBP. He also served Land Bank Leasing Corporation, or LLC, was Marketing Manager and National Coordinator, Fertilizer and Pesticide Authority, and Technical Staff for Special Projects at the National Food and Agriculture Council. Mr. Pablo's academics include the Master of Management, Major in Development Management. He is active in several ministry functions, including Pastor of the Christ to the Philippines Church in Nagcarlan, Laguna, since 1997. Ladies and gentlemen, leaders and friends, once again, welcome to our leadership webinar, Beyond Pandemic. Let us hear from these men of substance and significance and be challenged to deliver peak effectiveness in the new normal.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Leadership Development Resources Beyond Pandemic Leadership Webinar, where we facilitate life principles that will lead you to deliver peak performance in the new normal. And I would like to thank you for those who had been with us for the past 3 sessions. This is the 4th session of our 5 series in preparing us for the next level of our greatness amidst the challenges and adversity that we are facing. Last Sunday morning, a significant part of our country was heavily devastated by a local typhoon named Typhoon Rolly, and it has a global name, Super Typhoon Goni. At the onslaught of the typhoon, you feel the danger and you just want to weather the storm. You just want the storm to be over. But the morning after the storm is the greatest test of strength of character. The aftermath of a storm ushers us into the extent of the damages that must be faced and confronted. So loss of lives, loss of properties, and the fear and the feel of danger inside our hearts. And the morning after, there was an initial estimated agricultural sector damage due to Typhoon Raleigh pegged at 1.1 billion. Just one night and one day of typhoon, and it's 1.1 billion. And so we have to understand that the aftermath, when you say aftermath, it refers to the consequence of a significant unpleasant event or adversity. So, and I got reminded by a statement that was given by a Japanese writer by the name of Haruki Murakami. And he said, and once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what the storms is all about. It's not about how devastating the storm. It is about how strong we can get to rise above and get through the storm. Just like what Haruki Murakami said, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what the storm is all about. So either we come out as victors or losers in life's adversities, or you will take this as a platform for greatness and declare that this adversity must pay. Once again, I would like to welcome you to our study series named Making Adversity Pay. And there's a focal point of turning our adversity into great opportunities. And I had discussed two opportunities so far. We have talked about the opportunity for growth, and we made a declaration that in the midst of our adversity, we will grow. I will grow. The second opportunity is the opportunity for resilience. And resilience is a God-given ability to bounce back, to continue to fight and be at your best despite obstacles or adversity that befall you. And we made a declaration, a resolution when we studied about resilience, that in the midst of adversity, we will bounce back. And today, I would like to discuss to you the third opportunity amidst adversity, and that is the opportunity to stand for our integrity. Now, browse through mission, vision, or value statements that corporations post on their websites. And you'll notice that almost every company includes a statement about integrity. And if you Google the following examples, you'll find that many companies use these stock phrases. Phrases like, we combine integrity with excellence. We act with integrity in all we do. We hold honesty and integrity as our guiding principles. We are proud of the integrity, sincerity, and transparency our employees demonstrate every day. As an HR executive and training consultant, I always discuss vision, mission, and corporate values to a lot of people. Morally upright statements, right? But have you ever wondered why they are needed in the first place? After all, integrity should be the basic building block for doing business and life. Nobody wants to get involved with a company that lies, cheats, and tricks its customers. Nor do people want to work for a company or a manager that is dishonest with and disrespectful of his employees. In other words, integrity should be a given without the need to trumpet its existence. As one senior executive said to me, integrity is a threshold characteristic for our people. If they don't have it, they are not here. So we have to understand that integrity must be a given point. Now, referring to the pandemic that we are going through right now all across the globe, COVID-19 virus spreads briskly and extensively and has become a pandemic affecting many lives and economies across the globe. Integrity must be also that evident and that extensive within our sphere of influence, starting with us and affecting other people. Which leads us to the question, what do people see in us? What do people see in you. What is integrity in a practical sense? Integrity is a high standard of living based on a personal code of morality that doesn't succumb to the whim of the moment or the dictates of the majority. We do not care whether it's popular, whether other people are accepting our ideas or our convictions, but we stand on what we believe is right and true. Integrity comes from the word integer. A person of integrity is whole. Their lives are put together. People with integrity have nothing to hide, nothing to lose, nothing to fear. As Solomon wrote, the one who lives with integrity lives securely. In Proverbs 10, verse 9, the one who lives with integrity lives securely. There's only one way that we can live with peace, that we can live with such confidence, and that is when we live with integrity. Now, let me give you a good story at Goodyear Company. After Goodyear Tire lost money in 1990, which was the first time in 60 years, the board persuaded Stan Galt, a Goodyear director and former CEO of Rubbermaid, to come out of retirement and replace Goodyear CEO. When Galt arrived, he began to unplug lights and unscrew light bulbs in the former CEO's large office to reduce cost. He ate in the company's cafeteria with the rest of the employees and got rid of executive parking space. The word spread like wildfire among Goodyear employees that Galt believed thrift is a virtue. When Galt then asked all Goodyear employees to help reduce the company's bloated cost, they already know their leader was walking the talk. Goodyear employees responded to Galt's integrity and plea to reduce costs. As a result, the company paid down its debt and invested in new research and development. Soon thereafter, Goodyear launched the newly developed AquaThread tire. It was a huge success and Goodyear was restored to profitability. If you followed through the story, you can see Stan Galt's leadership, and his leadership could actually be capsulized in this quote that he made. He once said that you have to set the tone and the pace, define objectives and strategies, and demonstrate through personal example what you expect from others. In his quote, Stan Galt was implying that he who has integrity must be whole. He said you have to set the tone and the pace. And you cannot set the tone and the pace if you are not whole. So, because only those who are whole from within can initiate things with such focus and passion. And when it happens, it will just be a natural flow and it will be an effortless doing of things. So he said you have to set the tone and the pace. Define objectives and strategies and demonstrate through personal example. And, demonstrating it through personal example means integrity. So this Goodyear or this good story at Goodyear Company and the effective and highly inspiring leadership of Stan Galt can lead us to appreciate three core principles in showing integrity amidst adversity. And let me start with the first one. The first core principle in showing integrity amidst adversity is to determine your core values. These are values that don't change over time, values that you won't compromise regardless of the circumstances. And these values did not really grow overnight. It grew throughout time. And therefore, the moment you have these values, this won't leave you. So these are values that you will never, ever compromise. Secondly, communicate your values. If this is true to you, then you have to share it. So once you have shared your values and beliefs with others, they will hold you accountable to that standard of conduct. We create our standard, and people will measure us up to the standard that we committed we will do. And thirdly, we have to live according to our values. This is where our talk becomes our walk. It may be easy to talk about God and what we believe, but harder to put that into practice consistently day after day. We may actually champion and talk about excellence, but we have to prove it through our walk. When you have determined what you value the most, then you live your life with great conviction. You live your life with such regard to what is true, what is noble, what is right, what is admirable, and what empowers others. So this kind of integrity can be birthed amidst adversity. And I got reminded by a quote by Arthur Golden. And he said, adversity is like a strong wind. I don't mean just that it holds us back from places we might otherwise go. It also tears away from us all but things that cannot be torn, so that afterward we see ourselves as we really are and not merely as we might like to be. So amidst adversity, there may be a lot of beatings and breaking that may happen to us, but what cannot be torn or tarnished would be the integrity that is really set inside of us. No matter what challenges and adversities we are actually undergoing. So I would like to discuss with you very briefly the 4 manifestations of integrity amidst adversity. Number 1, in tempting circumstances, stay away. In tempting circumstances, stay away. I promise you that in the midst of adversity, that your character will be tested, that there will be a lot of temptations that will going on in your mind. In 1 Peter 2:11, it says, "Dear friends, I urge you, as foreigners and exiles, to abstain from sinful desires which wage war against you." Abstain from sinful desires. Stay away from things that will corrupt you. Stay away from things that will actually pull away your character. So that means avoiding situation which you easily fall to temptation in the midst of your adversity. Again, in tempting circumstances, stay away. If you're getting tempted while in adversity, stay away from temptations. Secondly, in authoritative situations, show respect. In 1 Peter 2:13-14, the scriptures say, "Submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor as a supreme authority or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong and to commend those who do right." In verse 17, it says, "Show proper respect to everyone. Love the family of believers. Fear God. Honor the emperor." Is it interesting that in the midst of the pandemic, it is becoming an issue of respect or injustice all throughout the globe? Because there's a challenge to yield ourselves to each other. And yielding to authority is a mark of a believer. Submission or yielding is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of self-control. Thirdly, in your sphere of influence, stand for what is right. You have to influence as many people as you can, and start with your sphere of influence. In 1 Peter 2:18, it says, "Slaves, in reverent fear of God, submit yourselves to your masters, not only to those who are good and considerate, but also to those who are harsh." So that means that you have to practice what is right, no matter what happens. Integrity demands that we stand for what is right and the upright thing to do at all times. Never compromise what is right. And fourthly, in suffering, seek God. In 1 Peter 2:19, it says, "For it is commendable if someone bears up under the pain of unjust suffering because they are conscious of God." If we bear up the pain of suffering, it is commendable if we are seeking God with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength. And nothing reveals one's character quicker than problems and pain, challenges and adversities that we are facing. That's one of the reasons why God allows adversities and challenges to come along our way. When we go through suffering, it really reveals who we really are. So let me conclude by giving you the four manifestations of integrity once again. One, in tempting circumstances, stay away. In the midst of adversity, if you're getting tempted, to give up, to be proud, to have pity party, stay away from those temptations. Two, in authoritative situations, show respect. Always show respect. May you are the leader or may you are the subordinate. Always show respect. Thirdly, in your sphere of influence, stand for what is right. And fourthly, in suffering, seek God. I hope and I pray that I had brought some enlightenment and empowerment in your life for you to realize that an opportunity to stand for our integrity is an opportunity that we have to seize. As I end, I would like us to have a resolution today, a resolution that we will not be affected by our adversity, that we will not be defeated and overcome by our adversity. And we will say, this adversity must pay. And we resolve, in the midst of adversity, I will stay faithful on who I really am. And I would like to close with a quote from C.S. Lewis. And he said, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Once again, he said, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. So embrace the adversity that we have by actually taking this adversity or changing them or challenging this adversity to become an opportunity. This is Sunday Taniegra reminding you that you are a day closer to your destiny. God bless you.
Well, it's my pleasure today to welcome Voltaire Pablo. Voltaire is currently the Ministry Center Director for Leadership Associates in the Philippines. He took this position in 2017 after his retirement in government for 32 years. He's also, he was the Vice President for Human Resource Management of the Land Bank of the Philippines. He served as Land Bank Leasing Corporation, was a Marketing and National Director, Fertilizer and Pesticide Authority, Technical Staff for Special Projects, as the National Food and Agricultural Council. I mean, it's amazing the opportunities you had to serve your country in very responsible positions. Several academic accomplishments, including a Master of Management and a major with a major in Development Management. He's also served as a pastor in Laguna for a number of years. So, Mr. Pablo brings a lot of background to this discussion. We're really focusing on the whole climate of pandemic and what's been going on in the Philippines, around the world. And our theme is beyond pandemic. We're not going to live in this forever, but there's a new normal, trying to figure out what that new normal looks like. And I'm just excited you could join us. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much also, Terry, for inviting me.
So just a little bit of background. I mean, you've been very involved both in the ministry world and in the marketplace. How long have you been a Christian? What was your conversion like?
Well, I got an encounter with Christ in February 1986.
Wow.
And that was the time that I started to look for a church, or eventually to really deepen my relationship with him.
That's amazing. And I mean, were you already involved in business, in the marketplace at that time?
Yes, I was with the Land Bank Leasing Corporation at that time.
Okay, perfect. So how did your coming to Christ impact your world of work?
Well, it's actually it really turned my world upside down. I was a very I am a boss who happens to be demanding so much from my staff. I have been most of the times angry, even if they deliver. But this relationship with God started to mellow me and really allowed me to really see our employees, our staff, to be
Yeah.
partners in the work. Well, I started not as as an ordinary person. I never have excelled in college or in the university. I started as an ordinary clerk, but through the years, I saw that Christ was really moving me towards this direction of a bivocational engagement. So from that born again experience in 1986, I started to really look for opportunities to serve. I first of all started serving in the Tabernacle of Faith International with Pastor Ray Larena. But after attending that church, a very good church, a church in the city, I had this call to really serve in a small town in Nagcarlan, Laguna.
Wow.
And I saw myself to be serving there. And it has been 27 years being a pastor. I started as a Christian worker, doing menial job as a ordinary Christian, but later on was designated a senior pastor. And I have been a senior pastor for 27 years.
That's amazing.
Almost simultaneously with my work with the bank as a branch manager in Laguna, and thereafter having been assigned to the head office doing human resource engagement, and eventually retiring as a vice president for human resource management group.
So, I mean, you're really doing both at the same time.
Yes.
How did you balance both? I mean, that's very responsible positions in the bank. And of course, being a pastor is also very demanding. How did you balance the two?
Well, I learned to really make value every moment and every minute of my life. When I was starting here as a pastor and doing branch manager work, definitely together with doing seminary education, doing my master's degree in development management, leading several organizations here, as well as other initiatives in Laguna with other memberships in other civic organizations. I really found that indeed we could do so many things by God's favor.
Yes.
We can be favored by God to really be doing things. But that was a long time ago. When I was really young, I cannot do that. I was able to really manage my time well, because at the Bible school, that was the initial things, the initial thing I was taught, to really give value to every moment and every minute and do everything. Because what I was doing seminary work, as well as doing eventually masteral work in
Wow.
the university.
I really like that, because I think many people talk about being a part-time pastor. They're in the marketplace for their job, but then they're a part-time pastor. And I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that it's like being a part-time Christian. Either you're a Christian or you're not a Christian. A pastor isn't a job. It's what you do. It's not what you are, not what you do. And I call it double timing. You're double timing. You're both in the marketplace and in the ministry. And actually, the marketplace is ministry. That's where you're living out what values did you find changing as you really yielded to Christ? How did your world of work change because your inside changed?
Well, as I recall, there are 4 distinct values, biblical values, that I held on to for me to really pursue all of this. First of all, I saw that I need to be clear on God's purpose in my life. And that really allowed me to do things for His glory. And being exposed to so many, shall we say, roadblocks, challenges, problems, as I do ministry at work, at home, and in the office, in the church. Well, I see that everything that would happen have always been God's plan for me to grow. And
Perfect.
when you know your purpose, definitely there's no turning back. There will be crossroads, but there will be no choice to take the left or right turn because you know where you're going. God is directing your path. So instead of really choosing, it's actually walking the road that God has prepared for you long ago, carrying your crosses along the way.
I
The
love
second
that.
would be the second thing
I'm writing that down, by the way, while you're talking. Number one is purpose. Know your purpose.
yes.
Number two.
The second is actually servant leadership.
Mm,
I believe God has really given us all the opportunity to be linked and connected with Him. And from this connection, we are able to serve others. I believe, and my definition of a marketplace is where we our needs are served and we are able to serve others. It's a venue for an exchange. But a Christian would value relationship instead of a short-term gain or
excellent.
transaction. And I see that the person who is deeply connected with God will naturally serve with love, with patience, persevering, even for those people who are hard to please. We will continue to be persevering and long-suffering in serving them. And because we have been served by God, given His grace to really have eternal life, then we can do things for Him. Not because He needs us, but out of the overflow of love that we get from Him, we are able to love others. And that allows us to serve. Well, servant leadership is not just humility, it's actually washing one another's feet. It's asserting your right, asserting your the truth, asserting, correcting, and probably rebuking people. But in all of these approaches, you do this not aggressively or abrasively, but you do this lovingly. And that creates transformation. First of all, in my life, then the people I deal with.
Matt,
If
I
you
mean,
want
that sounds, you can do that both in the marketplace world and in the church world.
Yes. Well, the purpose could really be in the marketplace and even in the church. I see
Exactly.
the church also as a marketplace
What's
where
number
people
three?
meet. Yes. Then number three is actually excellence.
Oh,
We
yes.
serve an excellent God. We while we serve, the starting point and the end goal is to glorify God. So we need to excel. By excellence, I do not mean I am perfect. I don't do things perfectly, but giving everything we do with our best effort. It's His divine power that has granted us opportunity to really make, or He called us really for His glory and excellence. That's in Second Peter chapter 1, verse 3.
Yes,
And
amen.
when we strive to do our best in meeting the needs of our organization, the church organization, and its people, we are serving Him. It's not easy because the best way I can do it may not be good enough. I fail or we fail, but we can learn from all of these experiences to do
Wow.
better next time.
Wow.
We should be learning continuously and doing improvements incessantly, turning
Exactly.
in an excellent work, meeting targets and
And that gives
expecting.
glory to God.
Yes, and all of these things are are not just by, shall we say, things that we say, but people will see the result. It will be a
Indeed.
good testimony of what a child of God could do.
Number four.
Number four is integrity.
Yeah, now
Well,
that's
I'm blessed because the organization which I served for 27 years before my retirement is a model in corporate governance. It's
wonderful.
leading in risk management and also in integrity development. That it
Did you ever find your integrity tested? Were there any personal
yes.
challenges?
Well, many experiences. One of which would be well, as a man, because of my position, I would see some people or some ladies interested in me, and
Sure,
I would be interested with some ladies, but
sure.
I made a commitment with my wife that indeed I would be faithful to her. So whenever these things happen, we pray. I tell my wife
Thank
what's
you.
happening, and then we pray, and I do things to avoid the consequence of a sin happening.
Which
So
again is unfortunate because many times in the world today, there is no standard, there is no morals, and it's really sad that marriages are broken up in the process. So much drama in the office, and keeping your integrity. I like that. That's number 4.
well, I believe that a person who has a relationship with God would be whole. He would have everything in place because God has given him that. And as a Christian, integrity happens to be a core value because it's a relationship with God, our Father, who happens to really be a holy God. So there are temptations to disclose confidential information
That's a
because
good
in
point.
HR I have confidential under my care. I know the succession plan. I talk with the president about it, and really do succession planning for the organization. So, cases are brought to me for decision, and I need to act on it without biases. I need to be a person trusted by management and the employee union.
That's very important, Voltaire,
But
because I think knowledge is power. And I think people who are insecure or fearful tend to use knowledge and break confidence because they're trying to maybe work their way up to the top. That's that's a very. Can you sum this up? I mean, we're running out of time, and we could talk for hours. This is brilliant. Um, Give me a summary. Why was it important to you to do both, be in the marketplace and the church world, and ministering in both places at all times?
I believe God has really uh, called me for a bivocational engagement. I believe God, in all of
Excellent.
those years, have prepared me to really do pastoral as well as marketplace engagement. And I gained strength from experiences in the marketplace to be able to do management and leadership at growth in my church. And from the experiences and problems I encountered in church, this honed me to be able to be ready for the
Perfect.
problems and the engagement that seems to be harsh in the marketplace.
Perfect.
But since I'm doing this for the glory of God, I saw Him to be with me as He has promised. I would be with you always. And that has been His faithful promise. He made good His promise to me. And that's the reason why, even if I'm an ordinary person, never excelled in school, have attained this heights in my career, and lo and behold, if we look at the performance rating, majority of this has been outstanding, not because of
Glory to
me,
God.
but because of God's help. And it
Wow.
started to be outstanding when I committed to really serve as a pastor. Before the pastoral engagement, it will be commendable, it will be highly commendable. But eventually, when I took on the pastoral task, everything started with an outstanding rating. Outstanding rating means 10% of the total population. We have almost 2,000 employees.
Wow.
So
Wow.
10% would be around 200 people.
Glory to God.
And I see God's grace in all the time, because there are bonuses because of the performance. And I'm
Well, this
able
is
to use
great.
the
I mean,
resource.
unfortunately, our time has run out. I mean, you're not really bivocational. I'm just listening to what you're saying. Seems to me you have one vocation, and that is to
Serve
follow
God.
your calling in Christ, and you live it out. I'm sure in your family as well, in the world of work, in the world of the church, and everything you do. And again, I wish we had more time tonight, but thank you so much for joining us. And I made notes on your points. So all 4 of those points are brilliant. And we look forward to being in touch in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Voltaire
much,
Pablo.
Terry. Warm regards to all. God
Thank
bless you.
you.
Hi, once again. This is Miguel Pabilonia greeting you, Mabuhay. In the last 3 sessions, we have been looking at how to find our way towards a new momentum. And I gave the first 2 steps, dream again and take action. Today, I will share with you the 3rd step, be inspired. So, dream again, take action, be inspired. Being sensitive to moments of inspiration is very important to achieving our dreams, or even just moving forward towards achieving our dreams. Let me explain why. Here it is. We all hit snags while we try hard to achieve our dreams. No successful person actually ever reached the top without really sweating it out. John Maxwell says, everything worthwhile is uphill. It's true. I believe it. Important matters in life are never easy to accomplish. There will always be hurdles along the way. There will be times of failures. There will be times when quitting actually comes to mind. And I am sure many of you have had such experiences. So let me ask you, what made you survive? What pushed you to keep moving forward instead of quitting? I actually wonder how Thomas Edison, having failed 10,000 times in making the light bulb, could still say these very inspiring words. I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work. I tell you, it had been difficult for him during those trying times. But that one moment of realization that every failed attempt is a learning experience, it made all the difference for him. And the rest, of course, is history. Yes, there will be difficult times. In fact, you might be in this situation right now. But let me tell you this. Let me encourage you with these words. Within the hardest of times, there are moments of inspiration. Let me describe this to you. These moments of inspiration are those times when we come to see life in a different light. Moments that allow us to see hope. Moments that make us thankful, that refresh us. Moments that replenish our strength. Many others call it eureka or aha moment, which means there is a moment of sudden realization, inspiration, insight, recognition, or comprehension. The thing is, many times it only takes one aha moment and we regain the strength that we lost. All the effort we expended became all worth it. And that moment of inspiration could be just one word of encouragement, one pat in the back, one text message, one positive comment, a cup of coffee with a friend, maybe a compliment from a boss, from a client, from a subordinate, or maybe from a loved one. All grandparents would agree with me on this one, on this next one. Moments of inspiration could actually be just a mere gesture from a child. Keeps happening to me these days as a grandparent. Or maybe sometimes moments of inspiration come from a simple question of a coach, an idea from a trainer, a line from a song, while having a restful moment in your sofa, or while taking a nap and having a dream, or while playfully and casually doing your job. They could come anytime, anywhere. I encourage you. Be sensitive to moments of inspiration. Now, remember these few truths about inspiring moments. One of them is this: moments of inspiration cannot be directly created. If they could, no one would have ever given up. As it is, there are many quitters because one way or another, they couldn't create their own inspiring moments. Second thing is, inspiring moments come to those who are open and sensitive to them. That moment will surely come. Those who have found no such moment in their life actually just missed them. They were insensitive to them. I remember when we were young, we used to play. Whenever we would see a Volkswagen Beetle car or a bald person, we would hit the other person, the other child. You see, on normal days, we don't notice so many beetle cars and bald men. But why is it that on those days when we play, I tell you, our head and fingers would hurt from hitting and getting hit? Beetle cars and bald people seem to be everywhere. It's because we were actually looking for them. We have become sensitive to them. That's also true with moments of inspiration. So that's the second. The third one is this: they don't happen in a vacuum. They come because you are doing, learning, thinking, planning, or acting on something. These inspiring moments build on a previous knowledge or experience, even if they come in the most unexpected way and time. It's true, you cannot directly create them, but you can make yourself ready for them. That's number 3. Number 4, they usually come in series. When you've taken notice of one moment, you begin to realize that there isn't just one inspiring moment. For example, if you're a student and you wanted to somehow get a compliment from a professor, if you are really working hard, you would realize that you did not just do it right once, but you are actually doing it right so many times that you would keep on hearing compliments from your professor. Or maybe if you are a speaker, just like me, you would realize that not just one person in the audience benefited from your talk. There are many others. Or maybe if you're looking for encouragement, you would see that there is not just one person who would like to say to you, go, go, go. I actually read about this man who found inspiration to write a book and ended up writing several more. For him, it felt like the floodgates of ideas have been unlocked. That's the power of moments of inspiration. Then the last one. One moment of inspiration goes a long way. Many are saying that what we need in life in order to succeed is 90% perspiration and only 10% inspiration. I agree. This is because each moment of inspiration could make such a big impact on us that it could take us farther than we could imagine. I might actually compare this to a really tired driver who takes a few minutes of what we call power nap and then hit the road again for several hours. This is actually me. I only need 15, 20 minutes and I'm ready again to drive for a few hours more. That's the power of inspiration. So can you imagine what will happen if we are inspired, if we are sensitive to moments of inspiration? So, for my final words, don't miss out on the inspiring moments that come your way. You need them to strengthen you for the long haul. They are like cheers from the crowd as you run the marathon, like a bottle of water from a spectator to quench your thirst and to refresh you from the sweltering heat of the sun. These moments of inspiration are necessary to keep you going. And the good news is they are actually available. Just be sensitive for them. Embrace them. And finally, let them keep you going. God bless.
So I wonder if you can picture with me an old man standing on the side of a slope, a mountain. He's quite weathered. He's actually lived for over 40 years in the desert. His face is leathery like, it's wrinkled, quite dry. He's 85 years old, but there's a strength to him. And in fact, he's on a mission. You get this sense, even watching him, that he's looking very intently at this particular mountain, and there's a gleam in his eye. He's focused on where he's going. I want to come back and talk about Caleb in a couple moments. Let's back up just for a moment and kind of set the scene for where we've come in the last couple of sessions together. In our first session, we talked about about running our pace, running our race, running with grace. And we've been dealing with this subject of asking the question, actually, are you leading or reacting? Is your direction established? Do you know where you're going? Or are you just kind of running in circles? And in a cycle of reacting to the situations around you instead of taking ownership and leadership. I looked at some evidences of that lifestyle in the last two sessions 2 and sessions 3. Talked about being very busy and being proud of it. We talked about just being caught up in putting out fires all the time, having our energy drained, just always feeling worn out, and having no time to meditate, to get quiet. You can't get quiet because you seem like your head's always racing ahead. Somehow in the process becoming satisfied with just second best, just survival. Second best is good enough. And then feeling like you want to give up, just looking back and remembering how things used to be. And finally, being motivated by fear and not by faith. My challenge is let's stop imitating the hamster. Remember the hamster's that guy who loves to run. He runs all night long for hours. He can cover 6 miles in one night, but he's not getting anywhere. And I want to challenge you that if you know what your purpose is, if you know where you're going, then you can take steps toward that by the daily decisions you make every single day, day after day. And I want to look at 3 keys, actually 7 keys over the next 2 sessions, but today, the first 3 keys of what it means to live an intentional life. What does it mean to be intentional about our life? Having a proactive lifestyle. The first one is this: you are living intentionally when you have a hope and a picture of the future. That's why I introduced Caleb as I started this session together. Caleb is just an inspiring man to me. We were introduced to him actually back in Joshua chapter 14, but then later we catch up Numbers chapter 14, but then later we catch up with him in the book of Joshua. In Numbers, he's being sent by Moses into the promised land to spy out what it was like. And while he was there, he discovered a mountain, the mountain of Hebron, in fact. And when he came back and reported to Moses, he asked for a promise. I want that mountain. He had faith that there was going to come a day that they were going to overcome the obstacles. They were going to reach the mountain of Hebron. We find ourselves now, years later, 45 years later, 40 years in the wilderness, 5 years of conquest in the land, and now in Joshua chapter 14, verse 10. Joshua 14:10. Here's what Caleb says. And now, behold, the Lord has kept me alive, just as he said, these 45 years since the Lord spoke to me his word through Moses when Israel walked in the wilderness. Behold, I am this day 85 years old. I am still as strong today as I was in the day that Moses sent me. My strength then is now as it was for war and for going in and coming out. Think of that now. 85 years old. He says he's strong, he's focused. Why? So now give me this hill country that the Lord spoke to me on that day. For you have heard on that day how the Amalekite was there, great fortified cities. It may be the Lord will be with me and I shall drive them out, just as the Lord said. I'm inspired. In fact, I'm excited by the testimony of Caleb. 85 years old, still strong, ready, and he recognizes this is not going to be easy. There are enemies I'm going to face, but I've got a promise from God. In fact, let's just back up a little bit to verse 6. Joshua chapter 14, verse 6. Here's what the Bible says. Then the people of Judah came to Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, and the Kenizzite said to him, you know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, at Kadesh Barnea, concerning you and me. So how is it that the people, his family members, know about this promise? Well, I think it's very simple. He's been studying this vision. He's been meditating on this vision. He's been recounting and sharing this promise for 45 years with anyone who will listen, but certainly with his extended family members. Remember in the Bible, when we say family, we mean in-laws and outlaws, the clan, basically. And he had a hope. He had a direction. He knew where he was going. And because he had a picture in his mind of this wonderful mountain, the valleys, the fields that were there, all the preparation that was being made, he could go for 45 years of struggle, of difficult life, waiting for that promise. Do you have a hope? Do you have a future? Do you believe that God's given you a promise that you're living for? I've had the opportunity to travel in Europe several different times over the years, and I've always been intrigued, inspired rather, even by the great cathedrals of Europe. These amazing buildings that were built hundreds of years ago. None of our sophisticated tools or machines today, built by hand. Sometimes it took upwards to 100 years to build these buildings. Now, picture this. When they began building those buildings, the men involved knew they wouldn't be around for the finish, but they made preparation. In fact, one of the things they did, as they laid the foundation, they planted a grove of trees. I guess it was often oak trees or another hardwood that would be used in the future for the doors and for the windows, the other parts of the building that would require wood. They knew it would take 50, 60 years to grow these trees. So they put them in the ground as they laid foundations. They were looking forward. They had a picture, they had a vision, they had a direction. I wonder, are you living for something in the future that's been promised to you by God that you can lay hold on? That'll take you through difficult times. That's number one. A hope. You know you're living intentionally when you have a hope and a picture of the future that God has promised for you. Number two, you know you're living intentionally when you find fulfillment in being, not just doing. Now, here's a challenge, because our culture, our value system of this world is all based on doing rather. What you accomplish, your accomplishments, what you've done, what you can list as your victories, and I'm suggesting that doesn't really bring fulfillment, because as we've said before, it's so easy to compare yourself with others and find others that have done much more than you have. Real fulfillment, I believe, comes from being, what's measured by what's on the inside. Identity is more than just activity. Identity is more than just activity. And so our identity comes from what's inside of us, including our gifts, our calling, our values, the accumulation of our life experiences. And we could spend hours talking about each one of those things. And in fact, if you go to our website, you'll find some materials that'll maybe help you on that. But I just want to say this right now. There's only one you. That combination of all those inward qualities. Again, we know that we're unique on the outward. Unique fingerprints, unique iris, unique DNA, of course. But I'm suggesting it's what on the inside that really counts. Your personality, your habits, your areas of weakness, your unique creativity, your hobbies, your passions, your skills, your ability to imagine. What you imagine is very different from what I imagine. Each one of us are unique and special. And when you discover that uniqueness, who you are on the inside, and begin to live it out, following the call of the Lord, that picture that God's given you, then you'll find fulfillment. Let me define fulfillment this way. Fulfillment is not measured by tangible things, but by what you value, by the intangibles. And I define fulfillment this way. You know you're fulfilled when you have obeyed our Father and leave the results and the glory to Him. When you're following Him, when you're walking with Him, when you obey Him, and again, I'm suggesting every single day, hour by hour, obeying the Father's direction, our Lord's direction for our lives, then you find fulfillment. And of course, that protects us from competition. I love these verses in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 26. 1 Corinthians 1:26. Paul is confronting those in Corinth who were comparing him with other leaders and suggesting, oh, I want to follow this one. I want to follow you, Paul. No, I want to follow Apollos. He said, no, wait a minute. Consider your calling, 1:26. Consider your calling, brothers. Not many of you were wise according to the world's standards. Not many were powerful. Not many were of noble birth. Does that feel familiar to many of you that are watching right now? But God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. Wow. Now, I must say, I get comfort out. I get encouragement out of that verse, because I certainly can find other men that are much more qualified than I am. But I am who God's created me to be. He's given me my own unique combination of gifts, calling, values, life experiences. Here's what Paul sums up the chapter in verse 31 saying. So as it is written, let one who boasts boast in the Lord. Now, that pulls it all together. I'll find fulfillment when my boasting, when my joy, when my glory is given to God. So how do I know I'm living an intentional life? Well, number one, I have a hope. I have future. I know I have a picture of what God's promised for me. Number 2, I'm finding fulfillment in being, not doing. Number 3, you know you're living intentionally when you're leaning forward. Now, I want to suggest that every single one of us will be tested at some point, and we're going to stumble. The key is when you stumble, when you're confronted by adversities, when you recoil, do you fall forward or do you fall backwards? I'm challenged by the story of Jacob as he wrestled with a man. It says in the book of Genesis chapter 32-31. Unusual. He seems to be the angel of the Lord or the Lord himself. And as he wrestled through the night, the Bible tells us that as the dawn began to rise, that the man called out to Jacob and said, "Let me go. I need to leave. I need to leave." And Jacob said, "No, you're not going to leave me till you bless me." Now, this is quite a challenge because obviously there's something special, something spiritual going on here, and indeed, as they culminate their wrestling, the promise is given. I'm giving you a new name. In fact, a name speaks of our identity, of our being, who we are, not just what we're doing. And in the process, the Bible tells us this man touched the hip, this special pressure point, no doubt, on Jacob. He's touched his hip, and as he rose, he limped. Hence, I've often said, I feel strength when I follow a leader who has a limp. In other words, when I follow an individual who's been tested, who's gone through difficult times, who's learned how to fall forward, not fall back, but fall forward on the grace of God, fall forward on the situation around them, learn from the difficulties, and not give up. I guess I want to ask, what is your limp? Do you remember that time, and maybe even recently, when you were tested and hit hard by situations around you? Maybe it was criticism, maybe it was finance. It can mean any number of different things. But what was your reaction? Did you move forward? Did you fall backwards? Obstacles are opportunities. And in those opportunities, we have to choose, will we lean forward or we look back? I'm inspired by the testimony of Joseph, who knew what it was like to be tested, put in a prison, criticized, a promise given that this would never come to pass. If supernaturally, Joseph goes from that prison to becoming the prime minister of all of Egypt, and in the process rescues his brothers, his family, which was, of course, what he'd been promised in a dream many years earlier. When his father dies, his brothers are petrified. What's Joseph going to do to us now? Genesis 50, verse 20, has to be one of my favorite verses. Genesis 50:20. As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. I hope that can be your promise when you're tested. Will you fall on the Lord? Will you find strength in God? And can you sincerely say, wait a minute, you might have meant, the enemy might have meant it, those people around you might have meant it for evil, but God is able to use those things for his good and for his glory, if you fall forward and don't shrink back. I'm going to sum up and close in just a moment with a couple of announcements. We had a great time again throughout this webinar, and I hope you've enjoyed it. This is our fourth one. We have one more coming in December 5, Saturday, December 5, Manila time. Of course, check your time zone wherever you are around the world as you join us. Let me invite you to join us for our Zoom debrief right after this session. You should have received an email. If you registered, you would have received an email. It has a link to click that'll take you to that debrief session. We've had a great time. I'll push to an hour. You can stay as long as you want, but good time of discussion and asking questions. Some great observations of coming on those times. If you did not receive an email, maybe you didn't register, go to our website right now. It's flashing on the screen, www.ldronline.org. Go to the resources page, go to the webinar page, and then register right now. We'll try to get a link out to you as soon as possible so you can join us. So that's right after this time this session's over, our debrief time. And then let me encourage you as well, while you're on the website, look at some of the materials we have there. Note that page in the resources tab called Principles of Personal Leadership. There's a series of videos, there's a manual, all are free, available to you there that'll help you better understand some of the various subjects we've talked about tonight. What makes you unique? Who are you as gifted and blessed by our God? And then there's also an opportunity there to sign up for coaching. And we'd be happy to help you in any way we can. Let me close with the scripture that we've used throughout this leading or reacting series as we're closing tonight. So, 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 26. Paul says, I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air. Paul says, I don't want to run just helter-skelter. I want to be going somewhere. We've looked at 3 keys for getting there tonight. Having a picture, a vision, a direction, a hope in what God's got before you. Knowing that you can be fulfilled in who you are. You don't have to be someone, you don't have to compare yourself to someone else. And then finally, this whole idea of leaning forward when you're tested, growing through your difficulties by the grace of God. Thank you, and God bless you.
I am pretty sure that you have a lot of questions or things that you would like to share and still wanting to learn in-depth insights from our webinar speakers. They would be very delighted to engage with you through a meaningful live video conference discussion. Let us turn to that and process our learning. If you registered, check your email for a link to join us on Zoom. God bless you, and we will see you again next month, the last webinar in this series, December 5. Remember that date. Thank you for tuning in. This is Pastor Jonathan Taniegra, your host for today. God's blessings.